Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 186. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk and discuss new movies. I hope you all are having a great week so far. I am super pumped for the channel because we have not one, but we have two new episodes coming out on the channel. This one, obviously, being the first one with 186, and then 187 coming a little bit later. But let's go back a little bit. Episode 185 of the Timeless Movie Podcast is out on all platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Go check it out. I was on the podcast with my brother Omar, and we talked about this new movie called They Will Kill You, which stars Zazie Beetz. It's sort of a horror, action, comedy, all mixed into one. It reminded me a lot of Kill Bill, just a lot of action, a lot of gore, a lot of blood, but it was a good time. And so if you have seen that movie, go check out episode 185, leave a comment, send me an email, timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. That's where you can reach us and let us know any of your commentary and your opinions on some of the movies that we're discussing or any other movies that you're recently watching as well. Want to give a shout out to MapQuest, also known as Dan. He sent over a comment on Spotify for the Project Hail Mary episode, and he just explained that, his own thoughts, his own opinions about how he felt the movie was just a little long. So thanks so much, Dan, for commenting and always supporting the channel. If anybody else wants to get shouted out as well, drop in a comment, send me an email. I would love to read those on the podcast as well. All right, let's go in to this week's episode in which we are talking about the follow-up to the Super Mario Brothers movie from 2023. That's right, we're talking about the sequel, and it is called the Super Mario Galaxy movie. All right, I found out something very interesting. I was prepping for this episode, I wrote my notes, and then I thought, hey, you know what? This would be a good idea to actually listen back to my work, right? Listen back to the episodes that I've done on the Timeless Movie Podcast and see what I thought about Super Mario from 2023. Well, come to find out, I didn't actually record an episode for that one. And, it's actually funny because even when I was kind of getting ready to watch the Super Mario Galaxy movie, I had told my brother Omar, hey, for some reason, I don't have very clear thoughts about what was going on in that movie. I can't remember certain details. I can't remember scenes. I remember how I felt after the movie. I thought I liked it. I had a good time. Wasn't great, but it was an enjoyable experience. But for some reason, I could not remember certain scenes. And so I thought, okay, well, if I have time throughout the week, maybe I'll watch the first movie. And then I couldn't find it anywhere streaming. I had a couple of technical difficulties, and then I couldn't watch the movie. So I basically went into the Super Mario Galaxy movie without really a good context as to how I really felt and what went on with the Super Mario Brothers movie. So that might affect how I'm kind of thinking about this film, but maybe it won't. Who knows? I think this is a perfect segue for us to start transitioning over into the non-spoiler thoughts. That way I can tell you a little bit about the directors, the plot or synopsis of the movie, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts after I left the theater. All right, the Super Mario Galaxy movie is directed by two individuals, Michael Jelenic and Aaron Horvath. Now, these two men have worked together on several different projects, one being the first film, the Super Mario Brothers movie, but also they worked on the Teen Titan Go series that was from Cartoon Network. And so now they're back with the sequel, and they also have some of the familiar voices that we've heard in the Super Mario Brothers movie. We have Chris Pratt, Jack Black, Charlie Day, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Keegan-Michael Key. But now that we're going bigger, we're going into the galaxy in this sequel, we had to add a couple more names. Now we have Brie Larson, Benny Safdie. We also have Donald Glover and Glenn Powell. So we have a lot of stars in this movie. What the heck is Super Mario Galaxy movie going to be about? Well, let me tell you, without spoiling too much. In this movie, we get introduced to the new character, Rosalina. Rosalina is voiced by Brie Larson, and Rosalina is, at this point in the movie, she's trying to put her star family, the Loomises, into bed. It's bedtime, she's reading them stories, but then all of a sudden, she ends up getting attacked and kidnapped by the villain of the movie, Bowser Jr. He has his own nefarious plans on what he's going to do with Rosalina and her abilities and power, but his ultimate goal is to save his father Bowser and to prove to him that he deserves the name of Bowser as well. So, what can stop Bowser Jr.? Well, we have a team of Princess Peach, Mario, and Luigi, and now they must all work together to try to save Rosalina and stop the schemes of Bowser Jr. All right, that's all I'm going to explain about this film without spoiling too much. Let's move into my overall thoughts. What did I think about my experience of watching the Super Mario Galaxy movie? Well, I will say that after I left the theaters, I thought the movie was okay to good. I'm going to be honest, I don't know where I fall in regards to whether I think it is a good movie or no, you know what, it actually is good. But that's why I love talking about these kind of things on the podcast and discussing my thoughts. Because really, everything that I explain here, everything that I like and don't like, these are just raw feelings and raw emotions. And hopefully by the end of the podcast, I'll really be able to hone in on this is the exact feeling that I have about this movie. But again, hopefully we'll get there by the end of the podcast. Let me talk a little bit about what worked and what didn't. Again, I'll keep this very surface level, but what worked, this is going to be obvious, is the animation. The animators just do such a great job when it comes to being able to bring these characters to life and just all the different types of sequences that they created in this film. It worked. Also, it's a really funny movie. Well, I'll take that back. It's a pretty funny movie. I didn't laugh at every single joke or every single situation that happened in the film, but I felt like it was maybe geared towards more of the kids range, more of a kids audience, which makes sense. Super Mario is meant more for a younger audience. But, for some of the jokes that they inputted or some of the lines that were said, I got a chuckle out of some of them. The biggest thing that I could say that holds this movie back and why I think it could be just okay is the story itself. The story at times just doesn't work, or it didn't just click with me as well. Now, again, there could be times where, for movies that are more geared towards kids, some of the stories could have plots that are, just very simple, very straightforward, or, plot holes that just don't make sense. Not all the time. Pixar does a really good job to not only make it accessible to kids, but also make a story that could affect an adult as well. But for me, the story just kind of missed the mark in this film. You know what doesn't miss the mark, though? Is talking about pros and cons, because I feel like pros and cons are really essential to providing more color as to what my thoughts are on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So why don't we just go over to the pros and cons? That way you can hear a little bit more about what I liked and didn't like about this movie. All right, first pro for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I just talked about this 2 minutes ago, and I'm going to repeat myself. The animation is really the best part of this movie, but let me just kind of explore this a little bit more. It's not just the entire movie and how it's animated. I want to be very specific in that it is the action sequences of this movie that are animated just so awesomely. I mean, the way that they're able to capture whenever there's like a fight sequence where Mario and Luigi are teaming up to fight Bowser, or when you have Princess Peach and Toad working together to fight some thugs that are in their way. There's moments in space or in the galaxy when they're just kind of going around in Bowser Jr.'s ship. Just things like that. Whenever something is in motion, in action, they just capture all of that so well. Everything is so crisp and clear. So again, shout out to the animators and the folks that just are hard at work with building these types of just characters, the designs. Everything just looked so great. So props to them, because again, every time there was something of a montage, I wanted to bring that up. There was a couple of montages here when it's Mario and Luigi just doing work around Mushroom Kingdom, or a montage of Princess Peach. All of those montages, again, whenever there's action going on, everything is just animated so well. Everything just looks so perfect. And again, it's just, I can't imagine how much work goes into having to develop those types of sequences, how long it must be. But again, that's going to be my biggest positive is anytime there was a montage, anytime there was action, anytime there was any type of sequence that involved characters being in motion or characters in space or characters fighting, it was just very effective. All right, second and last pro for me was the characters of Bowser and Bowser Jr. They were some of my favorite characters in the first film. Oh, well, I'll take that back. Bowser was one of my favorite characters in the first film. Bowser Jr. This is his first appearance in these movies, but both of them together, they had some of the most ridiculous lines. They had outrageous dialogue, but the way that Jack Black would deliver lines, it is just hilarious every time. Benny Safdie as the voice of Bowser Jr., he did an incredible job as well. And it's just it made me really appreciate like how how tough it might be when the movies are supposed to be focused on Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach, yet Bowser Jr. and Bowser are the ones that steal the show. They're the ones that I'm more interested in. And so everything that they came out in, every scene, everything that they said, whether again it was a joke about Mario or just their overall plan, it just worked for me. So Bowser Jr. and Bowser were some of my favorite characters. And anytime they were in a scene, either together or apart, I was all in. All right, let's move into some of the cons. What didn't work for me? I kind of mentioned the story aspect of it. So let me explain a little bit more, but I'm still going to keep it vague because I don't want you to be spoiled. Again, we will get to the spoiler side of it, but just for this piece of it, the story itself, it just has too many moments that are just not explained. What do I mean by that? There's interactions between characters. There's themes that are introduced, and you feel like, okay, these are going to get expanded on, or these are going to be explored a little bit more. No, they're actually just kind of dropped, and they're kind of forgotten about as you go along the movie. Or you have introductions of new characters, and then boom, all of a sudden, it's very much rushed, and now they're all part of a team. And so there's things like that that I wish that the folks that were kind of directing and writing it, they could have just tried to explore these areas just a little bit more. I honestly feel this movie was only an hour and 39 minutes, I believe. This movie benefited from maybe an extra 10 minutes. Explore more of the relationship of Yoshi, Mario, and Luigi. Explore more of the complications that Bowser feels now that he's reunited with his son, Bowser Jr. There's so much different things. And I know, I'm pretty sure everybody listening is like, Victor, this is a kid's movie. Who cares, man? We don't need to explore these kind of concepts. I get it. I think I've just been conditioned to, Pixar movies and these animated movies where, yes, it is for kids. Yes, it is to make them laugh and to be entertained for an hour and a half. But I also like that they try to include some type of message or theme, something that when kids look back, they think, oh, yeah, I actually didn't catch that when I was younger, but now I totally get it. But again, that's just me growing up with movies like Toy Story and like The Lion King and things of that nature. So that's just kind of where my biases kick in. But overall, the story, I think, just missed a couple of beats that I feel like really could have elevated the movie and made it good and even great. But at the moment, again, that is really my biggest con is just the focus of the film overall. I don't know if it was because they try to make it much more of a kids-focused film, but again, that's something that maybe we can discuss in the comments as well. All right, those are all of my thoughts in regards to the Super Mario Galaxy movie from a non-spoiler perspective. Let's jump into some spoilers. That way we can start talking about a little bit more of the details, some of our favorite scenes, and a couple of other things that maybe just didn't work. And again, now that I can spoil it, can explain a little bit more about my thought process about what I felt. All right, hopefully that gives you enough time because spoilers are about to start right now. This is your last chance. If you haven't jumped out of the podcast and watched the movie, you're about to be spoiled on stuff of Super Mario Galaxy movie. All right, we are in spoilers. Let's start talking about some of the things that I really liked. Okay, I talked about Bowser and Bowser Jr. There was one other character that I really enjoyed in this movie, and that was Fox McCloud from Star Fox. I have never played the game of Star Fox, but I know that it is a character that is probably beloved by a lot of folks that have played those games. But Glenn Powell was the voice of Fox McCloud, and if you guys remember on one of our previous episodes, Omar, my brother, he has a little rant where he was basically explaining that he doesn't feel like Glenn Powell should be the protagonist that is like a nice guy. He should be the cocky guy. And, maybe he's right because Fox McCloud sounded very cocky. He was very confident in himself, but it just worked. Glenn Powell's voice works so well in this character. You get introduced to Fox and he's actually, he's at this like specific station where he actually helps out Princess Peach and Toad. But when he gives his backstory, it reminded me so much of Into the Spider Verse. I don't know if you guys remember those scenes where you get introduced to Penny Parker or Spider Noir or Spider Ham. They all give their very quick, summarized versions of their backstories, them thinking that they're the only Spider-Mans in their universes. And that just was a very cool touch that they did for Fox McCloud. He explained how he was with his actual squad, but then he got separated and now he's lost in a different galaxy and he needs to get back. That was all just so well done. And he was just such a cool guy too. Every time he was in his ship doing barrel rolls, any action sequences when they were in space, it was just all of it was just animated so well. And again, want to just give a shout out to the animators one more time. They just really did a great job with the design of Fox McCloud and how he looks. They made him feel like an important and cool character. So that was one thing I wanted to call out in the spoilers. Again, I didn't want to really just mention that up at the front of the podcast, but I thought Glenn Powell did a really good job as Fox McCloud. And I enjoy this character so much that I hope he comes back. I hope he either comes back in a different Super Mario property or maybe gets his own movie. Who knows? All right, couple of scenes that I wanted to call out that I really enjoyed. I'm going to repeat myself a lot, but because of the fact that, it's all kind of really commingled together. The animation was effective, and I keep saying that anytime there was a montage or action sequence, those are the best. There was this one scene where I don't know what galaxy they landed in, but you have Yoshi, you have Mario, Luigi, and Toad, and they fall into this one land that has dinosaurs, and a T Rex comes out. First things first, T Rex is my favorite dinosaur. I'm pretty sure it's the favorite of millions of different folks on this planet. But again, the animation of that T Rex was awesome, but the chase scene, the way that it just reminisced a little bit of Jurassic Park, and the way that the scream or the yell of the T Rex is just so iconic. One thing I wanted to tell you guys, and something that I talked about with my brother Omar, is isn't it crazy that anytime you see a T Rex in a movie, in an animated show, an animated film, isn't it crazy that the sound that you hear of the roar of the T Rex is always the Jurassic Park sound? It's like Jurassic Park nailed that sound so well that now in the future, anytime a T Rex is on screen, if you don't hear that sound or the roar of a T Rex and it doesn't sound like what you're used to in Jurassic Park, then you feel like, oh, this kind of like a knockoff, or like, why did they try to change it? Or why doesn't it sound like it? It's so crazy how impactful Jurassic Park did, not only with the design of the dinosaurs, but even to the detail of the sound design as well. So just such a cool scene, but I wanted to call that out. The T-Rex chasing Yoshi, chasing Mario and Luigi and Toad was just so awesome as well. All right, one of the funnier moments that I wanted to bring up was Bowser. Jack Black, he can never do no wrong. Anytime, either it's animated, live action, he's always going to be a highlight in these movies. And where we find Bowser in Super Mario the Galaxy movie is you have him, he's pretty much tiny. They gave him some type of a power up and they made him small, and he's actually going through rehabilitation. And so he's trying to work on his anger, trying to not be rivals against Mario. And what's so funny is that Bowser and Luigi actually seem like they have somewhat of a friendship going, because even Luigi feels like, hey, he's already somewhat atoned in some ways. He's trying to be a better person. And yeah, just the fact that Bowser, at times he feels like he's going to blow up, and then he remembers, oh yeah, no, hold on. I've been working on my anger management issues. I've been working on this. I've been trying to rehabilitate. Let me dial it back. And so it's just funny things that happen with Bowser that just made me laugh. He ends up eventually kind of forcing Mario's hand to kind of work together, which I thought that was a really cool concept of seeing Bowser and Mario on the same side, even though it was very short, not too long. But I thought the concept of including that piece of it in the story was a really good idea. Overall, Bowser was just hilarious. Again, anytime he was interacting with Mario, with Luigi, even with Bowser Jr., it was just so many funny dialogue and just lines that were read by Jack Black, and he just delivers them so perfectly. All right, I mentioned this a little bit before in one of my pros. Easter eggs in this game were also well executed. when you used to play the Super Mario game, you had that kind of scrolling side to side. They did that again in this film. But the coolest Easter egg I thought was when they reenacted when you're in Bowser's castle and how you're supposed to kind of get over him or around him. I never passed the level. I was never that good at playing the game. But how they did that with Mario and Princess Peach, they're both trying to get through Bowser's castle and all of the different types of booby traps that they have, and then eventually facing off against him. That was just all well done. Again, it just hits on the nostalgia piece of it. And what was so funny is that Bowser Jr., as he's like working on the booby traps, his screen looks like the classic Super Mario's game, which is, again, just nice little touches to the nostalgia of what a lot of people will probably feel when they watch this movie. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to call out about what I enjoyed was Bowser Jr. Again, he was an awesome character, but I actually really liked his ability. He had like this kind of paintbrush that he was able to really kind of draw and create different types of creatures or weapons, or even use it for his own body as armor. And so I thought that was a really cool touch. And again, going back to the animation, how they animated Bowser Jr. when he had this kind of metallic purple color over his body, like an armor, just well done. I mean, I really love it when they kind of design these types of characters and bring them to life from a video game or from anything else. It just, again, I can't imagine how much work goes into it. So, once again, broken record time. Props to the animators for just executing on such a well made character in Bowser Jr. All right. Want to close out the podcast by saying a couple of things that didn't work for me in this movie. Again, I don't want to just trash this movie, and that's not the purpose of it. I just want to be honest about what things didn't work. And I also want to tell you guys so that you can also let me know in the comments and just be honest with me. Like, hey, Victor, you're overthinking it or you're over criticizing. That's not the point of that. I always love to hear that kind of feedback just to kind of get a gauge as to, well, hey, how am I thinking about this? Is this, is that really normal? Am I overthinking it? In most cases, I am overthinking it. But let's start with the first one. The interaction between Yoshi, Mario, and Luigi. This is one of the parts of the cons that first came into my mind, which is you get the introduction of Yoshi, they find him in a tunnel, and literally within 2 minutes, he is with Mario and Luigi, and they're a team already. They're working hand in hand. Their chemistry is on point. I didn't really buy that. No, I kind of wanted it not to be rushed. I felt like the relationship should have been expanded on. Maybe have Yoshi come in and help them when they're on a mission in Mushroom Kingdom or something to that effect. But just immediately finding him and then boom, they immediately become a team. They have a little montage and then, all right, let's start working and trying to help out Mushroom Kingdom. I felt like it was just too rushed in regards to the relationship of Yoshi, Mario, and Luigi. Wanted that to be expanded a little bit more. Also, I want to say that like when it comes to, different elements of the story itself, there's moments that just again, they kind of is a lapse. Maybe again, it could be me. It could be something that I just completely went over my head and I was not paying attention. I could definitely see that happening. But there was a moment where you have Bowser Jr. He has a UFO ship. He uses his ray to basically pick up all of Princess Peach's castle. And Mario and Luigi and Toad are in, or not Toad, just Mario and Luigi are in that castle as well as Yoshi. And the castle gets picked up by this UFO ship and they go up into space, but then eventually the castle comes crashing down and then it comes into an entirely different galaxy. And I was confused. I was like, hold on. Why didn't it just crash back down in the normal Mushroom Kingdom galaxy? Why are we somewhere else? So I just felt like there was a couple of moments like that where I don't think they was explained like how far they had gotten or where they were when they picked up the castle. Again, I think these are just very small nitpicks, but things that I noticed. Another thing, Luigi ends up radioing and trying to call for help. And the Loomises, which are these stars, they hear that radio from Luigi. Luigi does not give any coordinates. He doesn't give any location. And for some reason, the Loomis stars all find them. And I'm like, what? Like, how were they able to find them? Like that should not have been possible. There was no coordinates. There was no explanation. Again, it could have been something that I just did not pick up on, but something that I had noticed. To me, the biggest offense I think I got was Bowser Jr. in the third act of this movie ends up using his paintbrush and he makes a giant dragon out of his paintbrush in order to have it kill or take out Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi. The dragon is humongous. It gets created, and then for some reason, the dragon immediately turns on Bowser Jr. No explanation why. I don't get it. Like I was confused. I was like, well, why did the dragon all of a sudden just trying to eat Bowser Jr.? Like there was no, he didn't say anything, he didn't do anything. He just basically created the dragon, and the dragon immediately turns and looks at Bowser Jr., tries to eat him. And so it's like again, I know that from a maybe from a perspective of a younger audience member, like a kid, maybe they don't question those kind of things, but I don't know. I guess I couldn't separate myself and think like, well, logically, why would the dragon immediately turn? Like, well, there's got to be something, right? Something's got to cause him to look at who created him and then try to eat him. But I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. And then the last bit was Bowser. Again, I really enjoyed him rehabilitating, but he really dropped that idea of rehabilitation really fast as soon as he met up with his son Bowser Jr. I think they had one conversation. He reminisced about Bowser Jr. being a kid and reading him stories or doing like a little, story time. And boom, he forgot about, you know what? I don't care about the relationship that I have with Mario and Luigi. I'm going back to being evil, which again, I'm okay with him being the bad guy every time, but I feel like it just was rushed. Again, that was the feeling I got from this entire movie. It just felt rushed in regards to building the relationship between Yoshi, Mario, and Luigi, the conflict that Bowser has. Just feels like they were speeding through it when I feel like just take your time. You already have so many people that love this franchise. Just take your time and tell a really cool story. But I don't know. That was just my opinion on how I felt about different aspects of this movie. All right. Two last things. I'm being honest this time, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. First thing is, should you check this movie out in theaters? In my personal opinion, I have two ways of thinking about it. If you have kids, I would say yes, go check this out with your son, with your daughter, watch this movie, and they will have a great time. There is so much that is going on the screen. There is characters that they will get attached to. There are sequences that they will really love. So if you have kids or a family, go check it out. I think it's definitely a family experience. If you are like me, where you don't have kids and you're just going with your fiance or your brother or your partner, I would actually say you don't have to watch this in theaters. I would say that you could probably just skip this and watch it in streaming once it comes available. I just feel like there isn't enough there in the theater experience to like really blow you away. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about my recommendation of whether you should check this one out in theaters. All right, last but not least, it is the important question and why this podcast was created. Is the Super Mario Galaxy movie a timeless film? You guys have already heard my full thoughts, non-spoiler and spoiler. I'll make it very easy. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is not a timeless movie for me. Again, I feel like the first film was better, even though I can't remember a lot of the context and the scenes about it. But I felt like I left the first film with a much more of an enjoyable experience. This one, again, it was good. It was fun, but not something that I plan to rewatch or add to my timeless collection. So those are my honest thoughts about Super Mario, the Galaxy movie. What do you all think about this film? Have you had a chance to check it out? What did you feel about it after you left? Are some of the nitpicks and cons that I'm bringing up just ridiculous? And if you have kids, well, what did they think about it? Let me know their thoughts as well in the comments, or send me an email as well. Happy to read through those, and that way I can also read those on the podcast as well. All right, everybody. Appreciate you all listening to my rambling thoughts about Super Mario, the Galaxy movie. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 186 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out our next episode because we're going to be covering the new A24 movie called The Drama, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. You will not want to miss it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you all later.